We are formally members of the KHive now.
Oh, absolutely.
Last week,
KHive strong.
Last week we were a little tepid. I'll say a little nervous to fully buy into the argument that we should fully replace Joe Biden, but between last week and this week, the 7-day period, I'm a member of the KHive. Buzz.
You know what? I'll be the first to admit, once again, last week I said, if Kamala Harris is the nominee, God forbid. I regret those words. Because on fucking Tuesday, I log on to Twitter and I see new polling come out. My mind has changed. My mind has genuinely changed.
Head-to-head races, yeah.
Kamala Harris has a better shot than Joe Biden at beating Donald Trump.
Like,
and with that, I'll adjust my position.
I think she'd forgive you because, truth be told, you didn't just fall out of a coconut tree.
Exactly. I existed in the context of all of which that came before me. And that context was that she wasn't very popular.
Exactly.
But in finding out that she's more popular than Joe Biden, the context with which upholds my life has changed, and thus my opinions too.
And look, I'm unburdened by what has been, and I can imagine what will be.
Absolutely. And when I imagine it, I can see that the wheels on the bus are driving towards her nomination at the convention.
And pursuant to that, of course, the right wing will have to spin some new narratives about our potential presidential candidate, potential highly 10% chance probably. Our potential new presidential candidate, Kamala Harris. And as such, the spin machine has already started going. And we have a headline here, an article that just came out yesterday. Today's July 7th. This came out July 6th. This is from the New York Post.
Okay, all right.
I figured
a reputable news organization.
Yeah, trustworthy, and you'll see this is a very serious article. I'm gonna read the headline, then we can read a couple snippets. I think this is a good look into how they're going to treat potential presidential candidate Kamala Harris.
Nice.
The headline is: America may soon be subjected to the country's first DEI president. That's Kamala Harris. That's a real headline.
That's genuinely insane. That is absolutely deranged.
Yeah, let me read a few snippets. You'll see it's even more deranged.
Did that even play well for them when they were talking about the Baltimore mayor?
No, I don't think so. It's just a black person. Like the article says, quote, "There's a raging debate in corporate America on the future of DEI, aka diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it is literally destroying businesses that go there."
Okay.
And yet
yeah, for sure.
It's like, no.
I love it when we start off on a false premise.
And yet the American public may soon be subjected to DEI writ large in the next president of the United States.
It's illegal to be white. It's illegal to be white.
If Kamala Harris finds her way to the top of the Democratic ticket, while Joe Biden wilts away as the party's presidential nominee after his horrific debate performance. As you can see, we're dealing with a very serious article. And then if I scroll down here, it says, quote, "Remember, she's a part of an administration that gave us inflation, world chaos, and an open border that literally invites terrorists to enter the country and kill people."
Yeah, we send them mail to their formal addresses and tell them to come on over.
Yeah, so this is a very serious article arguing against Kamala Harris being the next president, or DEI president, as they put it.
Damn, that's...
Yeah.
That's great. And you know what? If this is the counter messaging that conservatives have to offer, make her the nominee. There's
100%.
There's no way this polls well.
No.
I'm sorry, but this works for your dad, dear listener, and nobody else. You know what I mean? Like, this works for dads that do nothing but sit around and be angry all day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the median voter, the genuine median voter, the kind of centrist independent, sees this and like, what the fuck are they on about?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think this level of racism, and this is just explicitly racist.
Like, you can't do that.
is repulsive to the average voter, and even more reason to run Kamala Harris. It's the type of shit they did with Barack Obama, although they have certainly escalated since then.
Yeah.
Because the shit they said about Barack Obama, he's a Muslim, he's not actually an American citizen.
Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's going to be the same shit, but times 11, because that's how we've devolved since then.
Oh my God. Wow.
And like, the premise here is that people that maybe get jobs through inclusive policies are unqualified, right? And the thing is, of course, that if you do get a job and a company is using DEI policies, that doesn't mean that you're unqualified for the job.
Yeah.
And it is the case that Joe Biden, I think in March of 2020, said that he was going to pick a woman for his vice presidential pick if he were the nominee. Later on, once he got the nomination or closer to it, he said that he was going to pick a black woman. But you have to keep in mind that the context was this country was embroiled in BLM protests.
Yeah.
Race was at the front of everybody's mind, so it's not like it came out of nowhere. And that's on top of the fact that, again, being a DEI pick, to use conservative language, doesn't mean you're unqualified for the job. And I could run through Kamala Harris's credentials. I don't care to do that because I'm not that big of a Kamala Harris defender. You can look that up if you want. But if we compare her to her contemporaries, like, you think Mike Pence was more qualified to be vice president than her? He was a governor and then a House representative. And it's also, you think Donald Trump was qualified to be president?
And even if Biden picked her solely on those DEI credentials, the whole point of the vice presidency is to act as a counterbalance to like what you are. Trump picked Mike Pence because Mike Pence was the establishment guy. He gave him legitimacy. And sure, you can say Biden picks Kamala Harris because she fills holes that he doesn't have. He's a fucking old white guy. Like that you know what I mean? That's what it is. Like that's all it is. Obama picked Joe Biden because Joe Biden was an older white guy.
He was the establishment guy,
And it could kind of quell the accusation. Like it kind of quelled like the racist voter's mind when it came to voting for him.
It's just very interesting that nobody ever talks about qualifications when it comes to the vice president until it's a person of color.
Yeah.
Like, no, I heard no discussion around Mike Pence's qualifications.
Like, for all intents and purposes, Joe Biden was a DEI pick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mike Pence was a DEI pick.
Well, and it's like Mike Pence was chosen because he was the establishment guy, which is a sort of inclusive practice on behalf of the Trump campaign. And also, he was about to lose his governor's race in, Indiana.
Crazy.
Like, he wasn't going to win.
Participation trophy. Participation trophy.
No conservative cared about it then. They might have criticized him for other reasons, but there was no criticism of him being a DEI or an inclusive pick. But when it comes to a black woman, of course, this is what they have to say. It's pretty obvious. DEI president.
That's great. DEI is just the new N-word.
Yes.
That's wild. I thought that was going to live and die with when they were calling the Baltimore mayor the DEI mayor. I didn't think that was going to last.
I think if Kamala Harris is the candidate and she gets out in front of cameras even more, they're going to call her DEI president. Like, if this is any indication, that seems to be the messaging.
That's
and the very thin layer of plausible deniability is that Biden did say he was going to choose a woman and then later on a black woman.
Yeah.
But even that isn't like that's not him saying I'm just going to pluck anybody off the street. It's obviously saying among qualified candidates, I'm going to choose a black woman.
Perhaps say people who were contending for the presidential nomination.
It's fucking absurd. Welcome back to Head in the Office, everybody. As Gage told me when I walked into the studio today, what a day or what a week to have a weekly podcast.
That's what I'm saying. This is probably the worst week in our almost 3-year-long career of podcasting.
Bad.
To be a weekly podcast, explicitly one that records on Sundays and releases for the general audience on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So much has happened. Like we alluded to in the cold open, my opinions have changed dramatically.
Exactly. I was timid last week. I was like, should we replace Joe Biden? I don't know. But now I'm like, no, we got to.
Maybe it's irresponsible to be dropping 400 articles saying that Joe Biden needs to step down. Now, Joe Biden needs to step down.
Yeah, you guys were right. Fuck, you were absolutely on the money.
Holy shit. Yeah. I apologize. New York Times.
And look, we'll get to talking about Joe Biden soon. He just had a big interview with George Stephanopoulos. Keep in mind that if Joe Biden comes out on July 8th, Monday, tomorrow for us, and says he's stepping down, all of this will be irrelevant. But maybe you can still pull out some good takes from this episode. Maybe we'll have some predictions.
You can listen to this on Wednesday if you're a Wednesday weenie, and you can enjoy the analysis of the time that it came out. You know what I mean?
This is a period in time that could be calcified forever. Remember this feeling.
It's like the Nickelodeon time capsule.
Exactly.
You can go back and you can be like, oh my God, that's what it was like before Joe Biden stepped down. I'm glad he stepped down.
That's what this episode is. If you want to help support the show before we get into the news, make sure to go to headintheoffice.com. That's our new merch drop. I'm wearing one of the shirts right now. If you're watching on YouTube, it's got our new logo on it. Very nice.
It's beautiful.
Our designers popped off with that. We've also got hats. We've got stickers. We've got magnets, which are a part of the fundraiser for PCRF.
A couple of mugs. Very cute, might I add.
We got all kinds of stuff. One of the mugs sitting right here in frame if you're watching on YouTube. And we'd appreciate it. It supports the show immensely.
Immensely. And
one of the best ways.
It makes us happy.
It makes you happy. It's not just a donation.
Oh yeah, it also makes you happy too by acquiring the material thing.
And if you're a patron, you should be getting your if you're an angel investor, you should be getting your mug today or sometime this week. Amazing. If they haven't already arrived. So if you're listening to this on Sunday, it should show up sometime soon. If you're out of the country, it might take longer to show up because shipping and all that. But you should be getting that fairly soon if you haven't gotten it already. So angel investors. Very happy that you're still with us today.
Happy. Enjoy your periodical free item.
And for the rest of our patrons, or if you're looking to become a patron, patreon.com/headintheofficepod, make sure you sign up for the Hiddo postcard program.
Come on. You got to do it.
Hiddo PP.
You got to do it.
Hiddo PP. We're going to be starting that very soon. Actually, after this episode, we're going to be planning out exactly what we're going to send out. We're going to be getting our stamps. Hopefully not losing all the money.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be getting the stamps, which are way more expensive than I thought they were.
Then they should be way more expensive.
I'm saying, and getting the postcards printed. Stay tuned for the design, folks, because it's a good one.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. So if you want to be a patron, patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Best way to support the show is to become a patron. Of course, you can subscribe on all the various platforms. The links are in the description. And you can also leave a 5-star review on Apple.
Absolutely.
We've got one of them today from Bakak17.
Nice.
2 Politics Max pod chads. We didn't read this one last week, did we?
No, I don't think so.
First, I vehemently condemn Hamas. Just recently started listening to the podcast because of clips I found on TikTok. Rest in peace. As a hopefully soon ex-American living in the Netherlands, this show is a perfect way to keep up with all the news. I just don't see headlines for any more. I just don't see headlines for any more from the country with way too much influence over here. Leftist sentence right there. I can't parse it.
That's a Karl Marx sentence right there.
Funny listen brightens my Wednesdays, but soon will brighten my Sundays when I'm no longer a weenie. Condemning Hamas again, and peace out.
Amazing.
Well, thank you for the review. Condemned Hamas. Perfect.
Model reviewed. Condemned Hamas. Talked about joining the Patreon.
Yeah. If you want to leave a 5-star review, we will read it on the show. And also on the merch. If you put the merch on your Instagram story, tag us in it.
We'll give a little repost.
And we'll say you're a real one.
That's right. Slutting ourselves out for this one, guys. Come on.
We've got a lot of people buy merch already, and some of you have already put it on Instagram and so on. But
and it's been
continue.
It's been really cool.
Continue.
I have done.
But I think it's time to talk about elderly, decrepit, wilting, unfit for the job Joe Biden.
That's right. What else would we talk about this episode? The Joe Biden. Well, we'll talk about Biden this episode, and then we'll also talk about at the end just a little bit about the Trump immunity ruling. I don't think it's as delve intoable as the Chevron one was.
It's
last
pretty
week.
blatant, right?
Yeah, it's pretty blatant that it's bad. So we'll talk about it at the end. But I gotta say off the top, I damn near forgot that happened. Because so much has gone on within the Biden circle.
Importantly, related to Biden, he didn't make a big deal about it.
Oh my God, I know.
we got after an astonishingly bad debate performance back on the 27th of June, he gave us 4 minutes on the Supreme Court saying presidents are kings now. We got 4 minutes out of him. Unacceptable, which will feed into why we are so angry at the Democratic Party today. But the bad news for Joe Biden continues into this week amid more calls for him to step aside and relinquish his presumptive Democratic nomination for president. As I said at the top of this episode, today is Sunday, July 7th. He hasn't dropped out yet. I would imagine he wouldn't do it on a weekend anyway. So hopefully this analysis is not irrelevant by Wednesday.
Yeah,
hopefully it still applies.
Hopefully he drops out on Thursday.
If he does drop out tomorrow, I'm not going to be upset about it.
No, not at all.
I'll be happy.
I'll be geeked.
Yeah, I'll be celebrating.
And that's all the more reason why you should follow us on our other socials, explicitly like Twitter and Instagram, because that's where we'll be posting about the things that happen during the week.
We've been
tweeting. Proud member of the KHive, Madam Vice President. I have misunderstood your game. I really have.
Me and the boys about to commit some official acts. So I figure it's been a very long week. So we should do a brief recap of how we got here, and then we will dive into our thoughts on the George Stephanopoulos interview, which did not do any favors for Joe Biden.
No.
I think probably hurt him even more, probably doubled down those fears.
Yeah, bro, just step down.
Yeah. So let's run through a brief recap. So almost immediately after the June 27th debate, calls for Biden to step aside were growing pretty quickly and pretty intensely. Last Sunday after the debate, Biden met with his family and friends at Camp David, who urged him to stay in the race. Apparently, Hunter Biden was one of the most vocal supporters of him staying the candidate for presidency.
It's because he needs a pardon.
It's beyond parody.
Genuinely, Hunter Biden needs the pardon, which is going to happen on Joe Biden's way out anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Purely self-interested.
And I'm sure genuinely, you know what? Maybe conservatives are right about that fucking laptop. maybe Hunter Biden does need access to the office of the presidency to get his fucking deals wherever.
Yeah, look, I'll be the first to say it. Maybe we didn't take that laptop from hell seriously enough.
Because what is this? Why are we listening to our son here?
No, it's purely self-motivated, self-interested.
Oh my God, man!
Like it's crazy because not only was he at Camp David advocating for Biden to stay in the race, one of the most vocal supporters according to the New York Times.
Ridiculous.
He's also been in and out of like White House meetings
with aides,
Biden,
like
with aides,
private political meetings for White House staffers that work with Biden. And here's Hunter.
And to my knowledge,
son Hunter.
To my knowledge, this hasn't been a thing that's happened throughout his presidency. And this is the type of shit we accuse Donald Trump of doing, having his kids involved so intimately in the White House. Like what are we doing? Do you know what's on his laptop? Why are you listening to him?
That's what I'm saying. Just send him off to go fuck some hookers and do blow.
And look,
he should have no business in official meetings.
You could say that we're being hypocritical because we used to sort of defend Hunter Biden, at least defend Joe Biden vis-a-vis Hunter Biden. And now we're attacking Joe Biden vis-a-vis Hunter Biden. And look, to that I'd say, you're right, maybe it's hypocritical, but I got an agenda to push.
But it's also, the context is wildly different.
Yeah.
When I'm defending the laptop story, all jokes aside, I still really don't care about the laptop story and Hunter Biden's private dealings and what he does and the contents of the laptop, maybe even the felony charge. I really don't care. That's because that was kind of insulated from Joe Biden as the president, right? Maybe Hunter Biden does benefit from his dad being in office. Sure, literally everyone does.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of a moot point.
Well, and I'd argue he doesn't get the felony if Joe Biden's not in the office.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Probably not, because when you are close to something like this, you have a larger microscope on you.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fine, like Hunter Biden's long too long and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as soon as he's in official meetings with staff, as soon as he is encouraging Joe Biden to stay in when he should absolutely not, that's kind of when it's like, okay, why are we trusting his decision making? Something that's proven time and time again to not be the best. Like,
yeah, why is Hunter Biden's putting the country on the line for this damn pardon?
Exactly. Like he can do whatever he wants in his private life. Just do not involve the democracy.
Yeah.
Big D democracy.
And it's also been Jill Biden has been the other voice, and I think Biden's also got his top staffers, his inner circle, apart from just his family members. But from the reporting I read, it was Jill Biden, it was Hunter Biden that were really telling him to stay in. And then in this New York Times story, which we'll put in the description in our sources, there's this really funny part where I think it might have been like Joe Biden's niece or something like that.
Yeah,
that said
his granddaughter.
His granddaughter said she was going to post more on social media.
Man.
That's the most liberal thing I've ever heard.
Grandpa, don't worry, I'll just post. You don't understand. I'll just post my way through.
Like, what does this mean?
Oh my God, man!
Yeah, it's bad.
These people, supportive family. I can give them that. They should not be around him right now.
They're evil.
You know what? The staffers should isolate Joe Biden from his family in this moment right now, so that he steps down. They should leverage him being able to spend time with his family, with him stepping down.
Yeah, and it's like Joe Biden obviously has the ability to make this decision himself. He's his own guy, unless he's completely a vegetable, which I don't buy that. I think he still has like some cognitive capability, even if he doesn't talk very good and he can't really sell a message for his electoral success. I think he can still make decisions on his own. He doesn't have to listen to them, but yeah, just taking cues from Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and maybe like 2 or 3 staffers, not good.
Not good at all. And for that to come out and like break news, come on, man, what are we doing?
And I know this was like scheduled beforehand, so it's not entirely her fault, but then Jill Biden appeared on the cover of Vogue saying we're not going to step down.
Yep.
That just looks terrible. Looks really, really bad.
Jill Biden damn near abusing her husband.
Yeah, she's an evil woman.
Evil woman. Fake doctor, Jill Biden. Oh my God.
And then on Monday, of course, the Supreme Court ruled that presidents have complete immunity for official acts. Biden was nowhere to be seen until the evening, where he offered a 4-minute, pretty lackluster response, which ended with, "I dissent."
About as meaningful as an actual dissent.
But even less so because, dog, you're the president.
That's true. You could ignore things the Supreme Court says. They have no enforcement mechanism.
You can really ignore things the Supreme Court says now, because what are they going to do? Charge you personally?
Exactly. That's going to impede the functioning of the executive office.
Exactly. It's like we'll get into more critiques when we talk about the case itself. But the fact that Biden came out, all he had to say was "I dissent." He didn't offer like a roadmap for congressional legislation. He didn't even call for like an amendment to the Constitution to make sure presidents can't commit crimes while they're presidents. Nothing like that. It was just "I dissent." It completely encapsulates why he cannot meet this moment.
I dissent, But I dissent respectfully. I'm not really going to do anything because I respect the separation of powers.
Yeah.
And it's also crazy that I think after this, AOC announced that she was going to introduce articles of impeachment for members of the Supreme Court on Monday. Baller move.
Yeah, the only person taking it seriously, it
That's
seems.
what I'm saying. Great move. Like we've said time and time again, you are supposed to be running against the Supreme Court right now because it's a fucking pariah institution.
Yeah.
Nobody likes them. The American public does not have faith in the court right now, especially post-Roe. Say what you will about nobody caring about Chevron, and maybe people won't care about the Trump immunity decision, but people absolutely care about Roe. And AOC is the only one taking it seriously. She says she's going to introduce articles of impeachment, and Joe Biden comes out with a statement. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. Actually, I actually don't want to do that.
Yeah, he's like, it's for the voters to decide, which is partially true. Like they're going to make a decision between you and Trump. Hopefully not you and Trump. Hopefully Kamala Harris and Trump. But we'll get there later. The voters are going to have to make a decision if they want to put Trump back into the White House. But you're the president right now.
Yeah.
And, I'm not the type of guy that's like, oh, well, why can't he get abortion rights passed? Why can't he do complete student debt forgiveness? Like, a president's not a king, at least before Monday he wasn't. The president can't literally do anything. There's restrictions, there's checks and balances. But you could use the platform that you got to call for dramatic change to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And he didn't do that. And previously, I think back in like 2022, it was reported that that Biden didn't want to speak too harshly about the Supreme Court because he didn't want to forever politicize it. That ship has sailed, brother.
A crazy statement.
The ship has sailed. Like, you make a statement, be firm. People are looking for a firm response right now, and your complete weakness on this issue is what bolsters fascists or proto-fascists, whatever, like Donald Trump.
And it's also crazy because, like, AOC, incredibly popular politician.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, 36% approval rating. I wonder if we can tell what's going on with the way the two message.
Yeah.
With what the things the two talk about are. Like, Joe Biden absolutely refuses to do anything about the court.
Yeah.
And it's absurd.
And also, Bernie Sanders, consistently the most popular senator in the country. That's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say. Shortly after the Supreme Court decision, we started hearing murmurs of him reaffirming his candidacy, basically just telling staff he wasn't going to drop out. On Wednesday, Biden's team had a staff all-call reiterating the same message. This part was kind of funny because I think it was at like 12:30 in the afternoon. And as the call was happening, what was being said was being leaked onto Twitter like immediately.
Hell yeah.
So somebody,
as it should be.
Either one person, several people in the meeting were just immediately telling reporters what was going on, which was really funny. But it's just the Biden team basically reiterating that Biden's going to stay the guy. Later in the week, Democratic governors met with Biden, and some reaffirmed their support, such as Tim Walz, I think he's Minnesota, Kathy Hochul from New York, Gavin Newsom, California, and Gretchen Whitmer even reiterated her support for Joe Biden's candidacy. Some of them didn't, though. J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, was there. He didn't say anything about his support for Joe Biden. And I think there were a couple of others. Maybe Andy Beshear from Kentucky didn't explicitly say I support his candidacy. So it's not as though he's got a firm wall of support among these governors. But definitely some still going to bat for him.
Maybe it's the Cope in me. Maybe it's the Cope in me, but maybe Whitmer particularly is like, oh yeah, Joe, we support you, until he makes the decision himself to step down, and then she runs and does the debates and then gets all the nominations, and then she's the nominee. maybe that's what's going on.
Whitmer supremacy. Whitmore.
I need Whitmore.
Look, and this is like 100 layers of tinfoil hat on, but I have seen that Gretchen Whitmer has been tweeting out some like thank yous supporting the Biden administration, like thank you for this investment in infrastructure, this investment in healthcare, whatever. But she's also been including Kamala Harris's name. It's been thank you at Joe Biden and at Kamala Harris. Oh. So maybe it's alluding to something.
Amen.
Why would you ever thank a vice president?
That's what I'm saying. Like, usually they don't do anything historically.
What's a vice president matter? Not at all. Not at all. So on top of that, sometime during the week, the campaign said that to explain his behavior on the debate stage, that Biden had a cold and he was jet lagged. The issue here, of course, is that he finished his global trip visiting European leaders and so on 12 days before the debate.
Wicked.
I don't know about you. I've been on some long plane rides before. Jet lag lasts maybe a day. Not 12.
You just a little bit to reset your circadian rhythm. Maybe you pop a melatonin at the proper time to go to bed, and then you're good. Not 12. And I know 6 of those days we're at Camp David with his family, I think.
Yeah.
Just resting.
The most peaceful place in the country.
Not doing his damn job. I can tell you that.
And we also learned around the same time that Biden is at his best between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. and that he's not going to schedule any more events past 8 p.m.
Man. And I think the excuse for this one was because he just needs more sleep. Brother.
It's
You're
looking bad.
the most powerful person in the country, damn near the world.
Yeah.
And you can't function past 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to be one of those guys that's like, what if we need to order a military strike past 8 o'clock? Because that's corny. But like, also at the same time, kind of valid.
Yeah, and wasn't one of Hillary Clinton's like main campaign, like one of her main like attacks on Donald Trump was like, who do you want to get the call at 3 a.m. that like there's some national emergency? Like you'd want it to be like an informed adult, Hillary Clinton, right?
Yeah. Because she's the adult in the room.
If Biden needs to start going to bed at 9 o'clock, it just doesn't inspire confidence, you know?
Not at all. Not at all.
Like I don't know what we're doing here. It doesn't look good. Also, because
I don't know why anyone would hear I cannot function past 8 o'clock and think I'm really want to get out of my house and vote for this. I really want to maybe take time off work to go vote for this guy.
Especially because the next debate is at 9. Like it's also at 9 like the last one. Like I just and that's the whole thing here is that this is all being spurred on by a debate performance that was really bad, but at the same time the debate was agreed to and in fact proposed by the Biden campaign.
And it's like, aren't all of these like addresses at like 8, 9 o'clock?
Yeah, they're
because
usually pretty late.
They need to be like late so that people on the West Coast can hear them when they get home from work. Like. Yeah. Seems like a job function issue to me.
Seems like an essential job function. You just got to be able to do it.
If my job requires me to be on call 24/7 and I can only be on call from 10 to 4, maybe 8, I don't think I'm keeping that job.
No, it's the most important job in the country, in the world, perchance. You got to be able to do that. At various points, we had some polling data that came out showing, Kamala Harris would beat Trump in a head-to-head. Pete Buttigieg would beat Trump in a head-to-head by larger margins.
Was beating
than
Trump
Biden.
in every swing state.
Yeah, that's
in
crazy.
That poll. Absolutely, something I never would have expected.
I guess his little tour of like the Midwest has been helping him.
Literally, like he's done it all under the radar too. Like
Yeah.
Buttigieg, I did not understand your game either. Like holy shit, I've been bewildered this week watching literally everyone poll ahead of Biden in almost every circumstance. Kamala's like what, +6 with independents against Trump?
Yeah,
it's like 49-43.
Yeah, I think of that poll that where it had like each of them head to head.
Yeah,
like I think Warren was on there. There were a couple of others.
Warren, Buttigieg.
Well.
That was the same poll where Buttigieg had in every single swing state.
Yeah,
Whitmer and Newsom were also on there. Whitmer naturally being ahead in Michigan. A lock, a swing state.
Important. Gotta win it.
A swing state that might go red this year. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems like we need those votes. And I think Kamala was ahead of Biden in the head-to-head matchup with Trump with partisans too. Massively ahead, +6 points with independents, and then just generally ahead. Yeah. When it comes to, like, seems like polling, say what you will about polling, but considering everything going on right now, I don't know if Biden can do it.
And the thing about polling is like there's also been polls that don't paint as dire of a picture for Joe Biden. And the thing is, if you want to use polls to reinforce your narrative, you can pick whichever ones make you look best and then sell a message. But if we just think intuitively, like obviously the person that can speak better, the person that can sell a better message, the person that can vigorously campaign over the next 4 months is the preferable option.
And it's also like, just like going back to the Supreme Court thing and how Joe Biden's most scathing rebuke of the court was, I dissent.
Yes.
The president the most important function of the president's job pretty much right now and during campaigning is to be able to create narratives. And he actively refuses to create any narrative about the Supreme Court, one of the worst things in the country right now.
Yeah.
Like, let's get anyone else on this job, people. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's really bad. And also there was some polling. This one was genuinely disastrous. I don't like, polling imperfect art form. You know what I'm saying? But this one was really bad. Did you see the one that said Joe Biden, or 72% of Americans think Biden is unfit for the job? That's insane.
I think there was also a Times poll that came out this week that had Joe Biden as like the lowest against Trump ever in Times history.
That's crazy.
Oh man, I might be wrong on this. I think the Times had Trump +6 again, which is just the lowest that Biden's ever been in the polls. And it's like, wasn't Biden +10 at this point last election?
Yeah, well, he was doing much better against Trump, and there were polls like in Wisconsin that said Biden +17 that clearly weren't correct.
Yeah.
But he was ahead, yes. And the thing is, when we look at national polling, Biden's got to be ahead by like 3 points at least to win in the Electoral College. If Biden's under with national polling, he can't win the Electoral College because the Electoral College favors smaller, redder, conservative states.
Insane.
Yeah, he's got to be like ahead several points in order to win.
And I think just like we talked about last week with how people were having these same calls against Hillary for whatever reason, I think when people were having the calls about replacing Hillary, she was like +10 as well. Like she was up massively in the polls pretty much the whole time. She had won every single debate and people were still saying maybe we need to replace her. Joe Biden has done the exact opposite, and he wants to stay in.
Well, it's like they were right.
Yeah,
she lost.
They also were fundamentally right.
She lost. Like she went on to lose the I don't get that argument that like, oh my God, everyone also said this about Hillary Clinton. Yeah,
and they were right.
Precisely.
Especially in hindsight, they were right.
Unless the argument is that the media came out against Hillary Clinton and that caused her to lose. And I have seen some people sort of basically doing QAnon shit saying the media's coming out, they just want Joe Biden to lose.
Yeah, Blue MAGA's out in full force.
And I don't understand that because we all saw the debate performance. None of this happens without that terrible debate performance. It's all Joe Biden.
Everything was fine. Biden was ahead in the polls, not by much. It was still pretty much a head-to-head matchup, but he was not down 6.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris was certainly not up.
And even so, like there's no chance that if Biden goes out there and has even a mediocre debate performance that we see headline after headline of op-eds in the New York Times telling him to step down. Like that just doesn't happen.
If Joe Biden has a mediocre debate performance, we see the exact opposite. We see even possibly even more headlines about how like you guys are being way too hard on Joe Biden, and then we would criticize him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that you guys are being way too hard on him. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's not the best. Yeah, he's kind of old, but he's still getting the job done. He did okay. Let's not talk about the debate. Let's talk about his record.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're seeing.
Yeah, like I don't understand why, and it doesn't even make sense logically. Like why would the media want Trump to win? I mean, I guess you could say for the ratings,
for the ratings,
you're doing
brother,
like purely cynically for the ratings, but I find it hard to believe that like Anderson Cooper or Thomas Friedman want Trump to win, like legitimately want him to win, and that's why they're covering it this way.
If anything, they are going hard on him because they don't want Trump to win. They want someone who actually has a shot. And like, at this point, like I am convinced that Joe Biden doesn't have a shot. Like I don't think he can win.
Yeah, like you're telling me I think the first person to come out against Biden in Congress was some random representative I never heard of from Texas.
Yeah.
You're telling me that he, some also old guy wants Donald Trump to win, and he's just like, hey, I think Biden's too old. Like, come on, be serious. It just doesn't make sense. And like, I don't get it.
There was another senator, there was another elected official in the Democratic Party that also came out.
Mark Warner, a senator,
Yeah, Mark Warner said that Biden needs to resign. And it's like, I think there are more expected to come out this week.
And it's like, Mark Warner is the senator from Virginia. That is a swing state. Like
we need them.
It's been blue for the past few elections, but it's very much considered a purple at this point because of Glenn Youngkin. It's like he why would he be saying he wants? I just don't get it.
And it's like I've also seen. Have you been tapped in on like this kind of weird discourse on Twitter about how people are saying the squad has not come out and told Biden to resign yet because they think that people think that might galvanize Democrats against the idea of Biden resigning.
I think that's correct analysis.
I also think that's correct analysis, and it's just blowing my mind. It's like, yeah, you know, I feel like they would have come out already if it wasn't for that, because I do think that people like Alyssa Slotkin or people like the one lady in 2022 who said progressives are the reason why we lost,
Spanberger,
yeah. I think that they would absolutely come out and say and rally behind Biden, just like how Joe Biden has said himself that yeah, I'm just an underdog, Jack. The more they tell me no, the more I want it.
Yeah.
Like, come on, we are in such an unserious position right now.
Yeah, no, if AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Bernie Sanders all came out and said Joe Biden needs to step down, it would have become politically radioactive for moderates, and we wouldn't get people like Mark Warner or the guy from Texas to calling on Biden, because they would have been like, oh, that's just the radicals.
And it's incredibly palpable when Mark Warner does it, when some dude from Virginia does it. It's a Republican governor, like a Democratic senator with a Republican governor. That means something now.
Yeah, like it's very much not in Mark Warner's interest to buck the party. You know, like he needs his party to turn out if, you know, whenever he wins his whenever he goes up for election. I don't know if it's this year or some other time.
Yeah,
like he doesn't really get anything for bucking his party in a swing state when like you need your base.
And we need down ballot races right now, damn near more than ever.
Yeah,
like God forbid Trump does end up winning, we still need the down ballot effect to carry people in states that Joe Biden was up a little bit more. Like it's a rough one right
now. We had a couple of more reaffirmations of his candidacy. Biden has not shown any sign that he's going to drop out, but you know, at rallies with teleprompters, of course, he's been saying he's going to stay in the race. There've been some ads that the campaign has released. He's done some very short speeches without a teleprompter, but it's been like 2-minute segments, like nothing crazy. But That does bring us to the George Stephanopoulos interview that happened on Friday, 2 days ago for us. This was set up as a moment where Biden could recover from his terrible debate performance by showing everybody that, no, I actually can form coherent thoughts.
Yeah.
To sort of set up the importance for this interview, Biden hadn't been seen on any major news publication since the CNN debate. It was just minor rallies, things that were already scheduled in advance. His absence was becoming more and more of a problem because he can... interviews take time to set up, but he could show up to a press conference anytime, and the press pool will be there.
He could absolutely call one right after the debate, even.
Yes,
and they'd show up. They'd ask him questions. He can show that he can talk. He can literally anytime.
Yeah,
part of his job.
Yeah, like Karine Jean-Pierre was out there answering all these questions about him, doing the thing where she just talks down to reporters, and Biden could have came out there at any moment and said, "I'll talk to him."
Yeah,
but he didn't do that. And
like he lives there. He lives in that building.
Yeah, it's not that far. If he can't even walk that distance, we got problems.
Exactly.
But this interview was so high stakes because Biden hadn't been seen on public television or any major news channel since the debate. And George Stephanopoulos said he was not going to cut or edit this interview in any way, and that seems to be true. It's just 22 minutes of questions, unteleprompted. Biden just has to answer.
Raw footage.
And we will watch some clips here in a moment, but my first takeaways were that he looked orange. First of all, the spray tan was crazy.
He looked whatever they did to his face, like it looked bad.
Yeah, they overcorrected for him looking like a ghost on the debate stage.
Absolutely,
they way overcorrected.
Absolutely, man.
He sounded pretty bad too. He didn't look his best. The recurring theme, sort of off the jump, was just that I had a bad night.
Really, just the response to everything was, I had a bad night. I had a cold. Dad.
Maybe this works for some people, but saying we finally beat Medicare, to me, worse than a bad night.
I think so too.
It's really bad.
I think so too. And and it's also just we can't afford to have bad nights.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that's an important part of the equation that people are forgetting when they use this as a defense. Is we can't really afford that right now.
And it was worse than a bad night.
We need somebody who's not gonna have a bad night when 50 million people are watching. And that's the only meaningful way that they ever engage with elections outside of voting is by watching a debate. Like that. I think it means a bit of something.
Yeah. I do want to point out before we watch these clips, because we're gonna watch the moments where we think Biden is really not making the case very well. It wasn't. Like, he wasn't completely incoherent the entire time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not going to frame it like that. There were some decent moments where he's talking about his successes with, like, childcare investment, infrastructure, the new jobs he's created, NATO and stuff like that. And, his accomplishments relative to Donald Trump certainly are not bad.
Yeah,
but that's not the question here.
Yeah.
The thing that we're focused on is not, has Joe Biden had a good presidency? Has it been better than Trump? The question is, can he deliver a message in such a way that can defeat Donald Trump in November? And based on these clips we're about to watch, I don't think so.
And it's like, even when it comes to the record, because you see these Democratic zealots on Twitter just always just yapping about, you guys aren't concerned about, like, what about Joe Biden's record? What about this? And we've been saying this has been one of the most progressive, like, slates of Biden's presidency domestically has been much more progressive than what we've had in recent years.
Low bar.
Incredibly low bar, but that's what we're working with. It's been good relative to what we've had, and it's been pretty good in ways that we've praised it sometimes, in other ways that we've not praised. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if he can't effectively communicate that, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It means nothing.
As we said, elections, it's not about telling the truth. Nobody cares about truth.
Nobody cares about policy.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
But we're going to watch this clip from the interview. It's about a minute long, this first one that we got here. The first voice you'll hear is George Stephanopoulos, and then Biden will attempt to explain what happened at the debate. And this was right at the beginning, like a minute in. This is a crazy clip, so let's take a listen.
What I want to get at is, what were you experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look, the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. The way the debate ran, not my fault, no one else's fault. No one else's fault.
But it seemed like you were having trouble from the first question in, even before he spoke.
Well, I just had a bad night.
And it's like Yes, Trump. You can say Trump lied 28 times. It was probably more than that. It's probably a bit of an understatement. But you can say Trump lied 28 times. You can do that, whatever. But that's not what people walked away with. Mm-mm. What people walked away with was you fumbled the fucking bag.
Well, and with that answer, I genuinely can't parse what he was getting at. Because he asked him, like, did you know while it was happening that it was bad? He starts off talking about his prep. And then he goes into New York Times polls, and then he's talking about the New York Times counter for how many times Trump lied during the debate. It's like, what are you getting at, man?
Yeah. Whatever you're getting at, it's not the question. It's not, my debate prep wasn't the best that it could be, and not even something you want to say. Mm-hmm. You don't want to get out there and say, I didn't really take it seriously. Then you're doing the Hillary Clinton shit. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really take it seriously, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of what I think he's getting at by saying, it's all on me. Mm-hmm. It's all on me. It's 100% my fault. But also, Trump lied 28. It doesn't matter that Trump lied 28 times. Yes, people walked away with Trump as a liar from the debate, but people walked way more away with, and it's evident by all of the litany of articles and op-eds coming out about it, that you can't do your job.
Yeah, and you can win a debate by lying. That is a tried and true debate tactic.
A good one at that.
Yeah, like you can lie during debates and still win them according to public opinion.
Good rhetoric does not mean being honest. We've seen it time and time again.
As we said, Trump did not win in 2016 because he told the truth. He lied like crazy, and he won. Like, an election is not about being able to tell the truth. Some other moments before we get to this last clip that I got here. At one point, George asked him about his reported decline, like just straight up was asking him about mental decline. And then he asked if he would commit to an independent mental evaluation, to which Joe Biden wouldn't really respond. Really just kind of sad moment to watch. He said
something along the lines of, a neurologist comes and talks to me every day. Mm-hmm. Something like that. I get a mental evaluation every day, and my doctor said I'm okay.
Yeah. And now here's one of my favorite moments. Biden also said that he doesn't buy that he's behind in the polling, and he also doesn't believe that his approval rating is at 36%. And then when he was asked, like when George asked something along the lines of, if the polling came out that you were really behind, would you drop out? He said the Lord Almighty would have to come down and tell him to step out of the race if he was to step out of the race. And it's funny because it's not voters or fellow party members that could get him to stop. It's literal divine intervention.
It's God himself. You know what? Some staffer needs to take it into their own hands to slip a little acid into his tea, into his cup of Morning Joe.
He said,
and then pull up on him like the ghost of Christmas future.
Yeah, he said, I need an act of God if I'm going to drop out of the race.
They need to set up wires like a Hong Kong action movie in the White House bedroom, and then have some staffer just waiting up there for him to fall asleep, and at 3 a.m. descend down upon him in white robes. Joe, step down.
It's just like what are you talking about? You know how crazy that makes you sound? I get, maybe it was just like a phrase, like he's just saying like, oh, the Lord Almighty could tell me to step down and I would, but it's like, dog,
that doesn't play well.
No,
like I can see what you're going for, but it's like you say that when you're popular.
Yeah,
you say that when you're popular and there's like a fringe part of the party that wants you to step down. You do not say that when literally when people in swing states that absolutely need you to be a good candidate are telling you, no, please get out.
Yeah. And now this last clip we got from the interview is I think the worst of the two, and it's just I was astonished when I heard it.
Okay.
So let's take a listen.
And if you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about.
Inexcusable.
I don't think that's what this is about, Joe. I don't think this is about trying our best. This is not a math test. You know what I mean? Like this is the country on the line. This is people's fundamental rights on the line. This is 3 Supreme Court nominations possibly on the line. Like there's a lot more than just trying your hardest to beat Mr. Evil.
It should be completely disqualifying for him to come out and say something like this. It's not Trump can't be allowed to win. It's not he poses an existential threat. It's I'll do my best and that's all that matters. I'll do my goodest and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's fucking unacceptable. That should completely disqualify him from being the candidate, in my opinion.
If we're literally fighting Mr. Evil, we're literally fighting Mr. Evil, like say the evil incarnate is on the ballot box, You can't say, oh, I just like tried my best. You have to do everything possible as a collective to defeat evil incarnate.
Well, and it's like liberals always say that democracy is on the ballot. And to the extent that Trump is an undemocratic figure, I certainly agree. I think Trump is a real threat to democracy. He tried to overturn the election last time around. But how can people take you seriously if this is your response to Trump potentially winning? Like, how do you expect people to think that threat is real? It's why people can't take Democrats seriously.
And it's like, tell me, like, that this is the epitome of ivory tower Democrats, right? Like, oh, I tried my hardest. Joe, it does not matter if you try your hardest when millions of people on the ground have the potential to suffer under a Trump administration, genuinely suffer.
Yeah.
It's not about whether you tried. It's whether or not you and your party did everything that they possibly could to beat this guy.
Look, I like winning.
I do.
I like to win.
It feels euphoric.
Yeah. I don't think this interview is going to assuage any of the concerns about his ability to perform. He was confronted with, like I said, some polling data, legitimate concerns about his performance. And all he could really do was bring up his record. And that, like we said, it doesn't mean anything.
It does not matter. Lies matter in a presidential election to the extent to which your opponent can actively pin you on those lies.
Yeah, if they can prove it.
Campaign off of your lies. And that's another aspect of like a head-to-head candidacy like this, Trump versus Biden, is it doesn't matter if the New York Times fact checker said that Trump lied 28 times. What matters is that you can actively rebuke those lies and pin him to them and make that his personality. Make that his public identity for the remainder of the campaign. And Joe Biden is not the kind of guy to do that, who could? Literally anyone else.
Yeah, and I also learned that in terms of the CNN moderation at the debate, the Biden team agreed to no live fact-checking.
Nice.
And look, you can say it's irresponsible to just even have that on the table at all. Like, what's the point of moderation at that point? But if it wholly was self-imposed by Joe Biden,
I think I had heard...
That's crazy.
I think I had heard whispers that that was one of Trump's demands, and the Biden team agreed to it just to have the debate in general. But in that case, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Especially with, maybe before the debate, if you tell me that before the debate, that Trump demanded no fact-checking to even do it, and the Biden team agreed just so it could get done, before the debate, I would probably say, okay, maybe this is fine, as long as Joe Biden can actively retort.
Well, and I would have made that. I would have made that a part of my attack. Is I would have said the only reason that we're here is because Trump said that he didn't want any fact checkers during this debate. Like, he can't handle the truth. That type shit. Like, I would have made that a part of my attack personally.
But after the fact, especially with hindsight, it's like the staffers and the campaign team that agreed to these rules on behalf of the Biden campaign most likely knew that he was going to perform like this. And that is wickedly irresponsible.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Now, Biden is still adamant about staying in the race. Some congressional Democrats have been working on a letter to ask Biden to formally step down. Congress comes back into session this week, which might push some of these calls forward. They've been on break, I think, because of the 4th of July holiday. But they're coming back on July 8th. So maybe something can happen. Again, we've already had a few lawmakers say something. One senator has called Joe Biden out and asked him to drop out. So maybe something can happen this upcoming week.
I'm praying. Doesn't he have a press conference scheduled for Thursday?
Yeah, and that's the other thing I wanted to bring up is I'm deeply worried that they're just trying to run out the clock. Because there is a point at which we don't have enough time to do it in terms of the party convention and getting the candidate on enough ballots to actually win the presidential election. Because a lot of states have deadlines. You know what I mean? Like the ballots got to be printed, that things got to be set up. And that's kind of the part of the next thing that I wanted to bring up is a lot of liberals keep saying that there isn't enough time to swap Joe Biden out for somebody else right now. And I think there still certainly is enough time. For example, European elections are like 2 months.
That's
like
insane
there's plenty of time to come up with another candidate. It's not too late yet, but as I said, my deep fear is that Biden's inner circle is trying to run out the clock here. And if the plan is to replace, if Kamala Harris or whoever is going to take over, every day that Joe Biden stays the candidate is a day that she or whoever else doesn't get to campaign. And I think that is a major issue. And importantly, it's another day that Republicans can sit silently and stay out of public attacks. Yeah. Like that to me is a big issue, and it's not looking good.
And it's also speaking to the idea that this isn't enough time. I would argue that this isn't enough time if you didn't have the full weight of the establishment behind you. But if the establishment wants to pick somebody to push forward, they have the resources to be able to make it happen.
Especially if it's Kamala Harris. She's got all the Biden money.
Especially, and they have like what? How God is it? Biden or Trump? That has like 127 million cash on hand right now.
I think Biden's got more than that.
Yeah. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. We can make this work 100%.
Yeah, like we've got the time to do it. And of course, he's not going to say he's dropping out until it actually happens, because anything other than I'm staying in the race before he does it is an admission that he's planning to do it. You know what I mean? Like, if after the debate they immediately came out and Biden was like, yeah, I'm reconsidering, that's like, you can't recover from that.
You might as well just drop out today.
Well, we're not going to know until the moment it happens, or if it gets leaked beforehand and that ends up being correct. But we're not going to know until Biden says it himself. And what they need to do to really assuage concerns here is get him in front of live cameras, as we said, do a press conference, just impromptu, get out there and answer questions. But of course, I think the reason he's not doing that is because he can't do it.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see how this press conference on Thursday is going to pan out.
Yeah. But that's my thing, is like every week there's going to be something new we got to wait for to judge Biden to see if he should really drop out.
And we only have, 5 weeks left?
Yeah, like first it was the George Stephanopoulos interview, which we were all waiting for. Then I saw it and I was like, well, he definitely needs to drop out. Now it's this press conference next Thursday, and then it's going to be something else the next week. And then suddenly, oh, well, we don't have enough time. The convention's passed.
Oh my gosh, guys. Electors have already figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, we actually already sped up the nomination process and got Biden in. So
yeah.
Too late.
Yeah, it's just I don't see how this looks good. And it really concerns me because there is a point of no return.
Yeah.
In terms of the candidate. And now is the time, really last week is the time to have Kamala Harris be the official person. And now the last couple of things on this before we move on to the Supreme Court is I wanted to address the liberals.
Yeah.
The liberals have had a lot to say.
Yes, they have.
The Biden defenders.
Yes, they have.
Had a lot to say.
The Democratic zealots, the blue MAGA. Because, I thought blue MAGA was always people referring to, like, vote blue no matter who type rhetoric. Say what you will about that. You know our opinions.
Yeah.
But, like, now, blue MAGA is real.
Yeah.
And it's just the same as Trump Republicans.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot of Biden defenders out there, and it's still pretty highly unlikely that Biden's going to get replaced. But it's astonishing to me that a lot of liberals will tell you that you just want Trump to win when you criticize Joe Biden, when it's the exact opposite. It is precisely because I don't want Trump to win that I am now criticizing Joe Biden.
Yes.
And calling on him to drop out and have somebody else, Kamala Harris, anybody, take his place. It's because I want Trump to lose, and I recognize that Trump is a threat not only domestically but globally as well. It's just crazy to me that liberals don't understand that that's the argument, or aren't willing to understand that that's the argument. Like, a lot of people are still saying that they're going to vote for whoever the Democrat is in November over Donald Trump, and, fine, whatever. There's a lot of nuances there, but we don't need to get into it. The issue is we need a candidate that can mobilize people who aren't doing the strict utilitarian harm reduction calculation in their brain every time they're at the ballot.
Yes.
Because while we understand harm reduction to be the only real way you can engage in the system morally, that's not how a lot of people think. And at the end of the day, I feel like the liberal position here is that criticizing Joe Biden during an election year is going to help Trump, which just means you can't criticize Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just a recipe for disaster.
I don't understand why they think that way. Like, it genuinely, like, the theme of this is just doing whatever you can to win, and they just refuse to do it.
Yeah, and and to that I would say, Joe Biden should stop doing things worthy of criticism.
Very true.
And in fact, your aversion to real critique is the reason Trump might win, because we won't get a better candidate.
And it's like all of the liberal fears right now, all of the New York Times articles, all the CNN articles, all of these articles coming out from quote unquote liberal media talking about how that Biden is unfit for office and how disastrous the Biden campaign would be and how he needs to step down. If we're feeling that way, imagine how vindicated conservatives feel right now too.
Yeah.
And there is something to say about, like, Biden is not inspiring anybody. I genuinely think that you can put anyone else in office and we're not going to lose out on votes, because someone who is motivated to vote for Biden right now is not going to all of a sudden be motivated to vote for Trump.
Exactly.
If anything, they're motivated to just not vote. And I would argue that anyone other than Biden can win back that vote because they can speak. If say the situation was reversed, say maybe Newsom is the president right now and that we need to replace Newsom with Biden. No, that's not going to work. Biden can't inspire anyone. But you know who can? A Newsom, a Whitmer, a fucking Kamala Harris, a Buttigieg.
Yeah.
anyone else can get these voters, can get butts out of seats. People will vote. People who don't want to vote for Donald Trump will literally vote for any Democrat that's going to be in that seat.
Yeah, but you got to get somebody that can mobilize them, that doesn't just depress them when they come on TV. You need somebody who can sell a compelling message. And again, like you said, I would get it if people were saying, like, let's put Joe Manchin in there.
Yes.
Or let's put Hillary Clinton in there. Like, obviously, no. there are people that would be worse for the ticket than Joe Biden. But that's not even on the table.
Yeah.
We're talking people that are literally polling better than him.
Strictly polling better. In internal Democrat polls, the same kind of polls that they use to determine where money gets allocated and how the policy agenda is going to unfold. These are the polls that they use to dictate every other aspect of a campaign and an agenda, except for the candidate. What are we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
And look, an argument related to that I've been seeing from a lot of liberals is we already had the primaries. And therefore replacing Joe Biden would be repudiating or going against what the voters actually want. And of course the response to that is no, we didn't. No serious person believes this. And first of all, some states didn't even have primary votes of it. And I think North Carolina and Nevada, maybe there wasn't even a Democratic primary to go and vote in. But of the states that did, any actual contender for the presidency within the party that stepped up would have been fucking excommunicated from the party.
Exactly. Whitmer cannot go run in a Democratic primary this year. You can't do that. Joe Biden is the incumbent. Like, the context was way different when the primaries were going on back then. But now, bro can't do his job.
And like, I'm sorry, but it's on the party to decide if we need an actual primary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and to the extent that people were calling for a real primary before, there were people on the left like Cenk from TYT and a few others, like, they were right. We absolutely needed an actual primary. And shit, maybe we should have been on that wave too.
I
a
guess,
little bit
but
harder.
it's like, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you're the incumbent president, it is a political assumption in this country that if you want to run for re-election, you get your party's nomination.
Yeah.
That's how it worked for Barack Obama. It's how it worked for George W. Bush. It's how it worked for Donald Trump. It's how our system works. It's just a norm that we have. And it's got to be on the party or the president himself to make the decision that, look, I think we should have a real nominating contest because I'm just not the guy to do it at this point. It can't be up to us because they have more information than us.
So many of the issues so many of just the country's issues right now could be solved if old people just backed off a little bit. And if old people just realized that, you know what, now's my time to step away from this position, and I'm not going to stay here longer than I need to be.
Yeah.
So many of our issues.
You know, I'm not going to live forever. I'm not immortal. I can't stay in this position until I literally die. Otherwise, bad things happen. And look, before we move on from the primary thing, I will say, maybe I'll get in trouble for this. Them saying we already had the primary is based on some false premises, obviously. But it does sort of reveal that as a country, we're not very engaged in the primary process to begin with.
No, not at all.
Primaries get very low voter turnout.
Yeah.
But they are very important because they're a moment for the party to come together and decide on a candidate that most people, hopefully, will get behind in the general election. And it is true to say that people need to be more engaged in the primary process. And,
for how crucial primaries are, you'd think that they'd be a core part of, like, federal elections and not at the behest of the party. The DNC should not control the primary process. The primary process should be just like any other general election step. And it should just automatically happen every year. I feel like that solved a lot of our issues. Then we could have actually had a good president in 2016.
Yeah, there are some states, like I think Michigan, for example, where the primary process is pretty ingrained into the state. But other than that, like the primary itself, like as a month-long process, is a state or is a party function.
Yeah.
And maybe every 4 years we should just have a regular nominating contest, and the president's got to prove himself if he wants the nomination again.
Seems like that would be pretty good.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not going to get in the way of like an Obama second term. You know what I mean? You do your job right, and that's not going to get away of you going again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
No, the last bit of Biden news to contend with is there's a lot of people that keep saying, why is nobody asking Donald Trump to step down? And I think this is silly because asking your political opponent to just give up isn't how you win an election. It doesn't mean anything if somebody who is within the Democratic electorate, for what that's worth, says to Trump that he shouldn't be running for office. Yeah. It means more if I ask my own guy to get out of the way. I was going to
say, I've been saying this for years now.
Yeah.
I've been saying Trump shouldn't win for years now. But what are you going to do? Trump's base likes him. Biden's base doesn't. Simple as that. Like, that's crazy.
Like, people are legitimately saying, like, why is
about.
nobody asking Donald Trump to step down? It's like, well, 'cause it doesn't matter if it comes from us. If we don't go out and or Fox News isn't. When Fox News calls on Joe Biden to resign,
we laugh at them.
We don't treat that with any seriousness because we're not trying to win them.
And like, of
They're
course,
partisan.
they would think that Joe Biden should resign.
Yeah.
They don't like him. That's not their guy.
Yeah, but if Jesse Waters got out there and said, Trump should not be the guy, then we could treat that with some seriousness. But if it's just me saying, oh yeah, Trump shouldn't be running for president, he was a bad president, he's a bad guy, it doesn't mean anything.
And like, it's like what Tucker Carlson got fired for talking shit about Trump. Tucker Carlson, it was news. It was huge news when the Tucker Carlson emails leaked, and he was saying, I don't like Trump at all. Why are we doing this? What's going on? Yeah. And then he got fucking fired for it.
Yeah, and people are pointing to like a whole bunch of New York Times, the op-eds that came out, but it's like, we know that, like, if they're writing an op-ed about Joe Biden dropping out, we know that they're like liberal leaning.
Yeah.
Like, who are we tricking? We know they're not completely apolitical. Like when Thomas Friedman writes like, I really love Joe Biden, his administration has been great and all this stuff. Like, we know he's writing his op-ed as a liberal who is asking Joe Biden to get out of the way. And if he wrote an op-ed saying Trump should get out of the way and it should be somebody else, it wouldn't mean anything.
It wouldn't even get published.
It wouldn't be newsworthy. We wouldn't even be talking about it because he's not a part of their electorate. He's not a part of their base.
What an asinine line of thought.
Yeah.
Like that it's genuinely baffling that people think that that's a known.
Yeah.
I can't stand blue MAGA.
It's stupid.
I can't, man.
It's real, and I underestimated how real it was. Because I always thought the blue MAGA shit was corny, but now I know exactly who they've always been talking about.
And they suck.
Yes.
And they are incredibly annoying.
Yeah.
And that's a sin.
And they're in the way of saving democracy. They say that's their goal, but they're causing it to happen. They're causing the downfall. Do you ever think, I want to buy my way into heaven?
Always.
I want to buy my way into the good graces of the people that I'm listening to in my ears right now.
That's right.
You can do that if you head over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. And not only will you be supporting the show, not only will you get early access to all of the content that we produce, but you'll also get an ad-free experience on the Patreon every Sunday, every time we release an episode.
You'll be able to pull up to the sermon on Sunday, on the Lord's Day, to hear the gospel as it's spoken.
Yeah, no more being late, no more interruptions mid-episode if you're listening to this ad right now.
Exactly.
It's on patreon.com/headintheofficepod. It's one of the best ways to support the show. It's one of the longest enduring ways to support the show.
Help buy a pass from all the sins you've committed. Start coming to church.
Yeah.
And we can get things going.
Yeah, that's only if you head over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. It's in the description. It's there for you.
My. And I guess while we're on the topics of the downfall of democracy.
Yeah, very true.
I think it's time that we get into the Supreme Court, and you already know what we're going to talk about. It's the president is now a God king with the divine right to rule and just complete and total power over crimes in the country.
Real bad decision that Joe Biden should test the limits of.
Real bad. That's what I'm saying. We'll get into that. On Monday last week, another genuinely jaw-dropping decision dropped from the Trump presidential immunity case, and this one is, surprise, surprise, put your guess in the comments how this one ruled. Another 6-3 decision that presidents are indeed immune from criminal prosecution pertaining to any and all, quote, official acts.
Yes.
And presumptively official acts as well, but the line between those two is non-existent, really.
Well, and the line between official and unofficial is also non-existent because Justice Roberts did not explain it.
No. A 42-page majority opinion outlining, like, what... 42 pages describing circumstances where X is an official act, X is presumptively official, nothing about what's not official. Crazy. And also in those 42 pages, incredibly vague definitions for what is a presumptively official act. Official acts are those that are derived from the core powers of the presidency enumerated in the Constitution. That is commanding the military.
Yep.
That is appointing like your secretaries, your heads of state, things like that, and also removing them. And that's also like controlling the DOJ
and pardoning people.
And pardoning people. Yeah. Those are your core powers. Anything related to those, if you commit a crime in doing anything related to that core power, that's an official act, baby. Yeah, that's fine.
The main thing I thought of was selling a pardon.
Yes.
You could, pay me $1 million and I'll pardon you for whatever federal
What
crimes.
I immediately went to was, it's my first day in office. Give me money and I'll appoint you as the EPA director.
Yeah.
And genuinely, that is unambiguously not illegal anymore. Trump on his first day of office can go to ExxonMobil and say, "Give me $2 trillion and I will make you the head of the EPA."
Yeah.
And you cannot persecute him for that.
Yeah, I see nothing in this decision that would bar him from doing that.
fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, and just getting to like things within the text, if an act is being persecuted that does not involve the core powers of the presidency, it's up to the courts to decide whether or not the president's acts are official or unofficial. This is the presumptive immunity if it is not directly derived from a core power, right? And the court gave no guidance to the lower courts to decide what is like where to draw these lines.
Yep.
Which is just honestly, that is a hallmark of this court and the last court before Ketanji Brown Jackson hopped on. Is just making these huge decisions, making them incredibly vague.
And it seems to me like the January 6th case with Jack Smith and the documents case with Jack Smith is just going to be out the fucking window.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the documents case wasn't the one at hand here. But if Trump argues, I took those documents as a part of an official act, I mean, you can't prosecute him.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And like there's a standard that Roberts put out in his majority opinion. We'll get into it. But either way, when it comes to the core powers, right, we brought up the examples of bribery or selling pardons. The dissenting justices, Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sotomayor, bring up alternative cases for things that they believe, based on the wording in the majority opinion, would now be legal. One of the things Ketanji Brown Jackson brought up, it would now be legal to literally poison your labor secretary. You could poison them to remove them from office because it is a core power of the presidency to be able to appoint and remove people from these executive agencies.
Yeah, and
what is the extent to which you can remove them?
The counter arguments I've seen is like, people like Ben Shapiro saying like, oh, well, a president still can't do that. And I don't see any reason why they couldn't other than, oh, they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Because like, sure, it's not legal to murder somebody, but you can't prosecute them for it. So for all intents and purposes, you can do it.
And there's also a standard that Roberts put out to where you cannot use official acts as evidence to, if something somehow is deemed an unofficial act and can be prosecuted, you cannot use an official act to prove that there was a motive behind it. You cannot use an official act as a motive or as evidence. So say a president goes on his first State of the Union address and says, oh, I am literally going to fucking shoot the labor secretary in the goddamn skull. I'm going to remove the labor secretary by poisoning them. That's an official act. That is them speaking to the nation. That's something that was outlined within Robert's opinion as something that's official. And then if they go and do it in somehow an unofficial way, you can't use that as evidence to prove there was a motive.
Yeah, and the fact that you can't even question the president's motives at all.
Questioning the president's motive in John Roberts' opinion is equivalent to limiting like the power of the executive branch.
That's crazy. Like, what are you talking? And it wasn't in his majority opinion, or maybe just one of the contentions in the case was about some citizen that Obama killed overseas or something like that.
I'm not sure.
I think this was a part of like the discussions of this case was Obama had somebody killed and there was a lot of controversy around it. And to the extent that that's true, prosecute him.
Yeah.
Put him in jail.
Prosecute. Go for it. Sure.
I do not care. People in power that were in power before, they can suffer.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You make a bad decision, you can suffer the consequences for it, dare I say. You know what I mean? And it's
just funny because this sort of just gives the game away that it's like, oh yeah, president's got to kill people.
Exactly.
President's got to commit crimes.
And
he made the leftist argument.
That's something that underscores the entire majority opinion is that like, if the president is faced with a decision that makes them even hesitate even just a little bit, then maybe that's illegal. I don't know, but they can't even hesitate at all. Or else that's impeding the ability of the executive branch to function. And if they're contemplating maybe perhaps committing a crime, which kind of begs the question to me, how often are they contemplating committing crimes?
Yeah, it seems like a lot based on this decision.
I mean, if they always have to worry about whether or not going to be persecuted about something, I feel like maybe they shouldn't do it.
Very funny. This decision sort of just unambiguously says Nixon was right.
Yeah,
like Nixon should not have been prosecutable. And like Nixon had this line before he was like before he was like about to be
before he was laughed out of the
removed.
Presidency.
He had this line where someone was interviewing him and they said, "Well, if you do this, isn't this illegal?" And Nixon said, "Well, if the president does it, it's not illegal."
You're crazy.
And that's what they're basically saying here. If the president does it as a part of being the president, it's not illegal. Richard Nixon was right.
Wicked perception on that one. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. And
50 years later.
Yeah.
like 50 years later, almost to the date. It was, I think, July where the Supreme Court offered their opinion that Nixon had to turn over the tapes, July of 1974.
And that was
almost 50 years exactly.
A stain on his record.
Yes.
Like, that is something people looked at Nixon and laughed at him for and were disgusted with him for. And now here we are. It's great. And the official language from Roberts' ruling was, quote, at minimum, the president must be immune from prosecution for an official act unless the government can show that applying a criminal prohibition to that act would pose no dangers of intrusion on the authority and function of the executive branch.
Yeah.
And that's what he says, questioning an official act or saying that an official act could be a motive for a crime that they committed is doing. He's arguing that if you say that the president said he wants to kill someone and then he did it, that is intruding on the ability of the executive branch to function.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like that casts a pretty wide net, because you can make an argument that literally any criminal prohibition would be restricting what the president can do.
That's what Sotomayor said. She said in her dissent that it's hard to imagine a criminal prosecution where it doesn't where it in zero ways limits the authority of the president. Like this is an argument for ultimate authority of the executive.
Well, and that's kind of the point of like prosecution, is you limit like what people can do. Like that's the point of having laws.
Exactly.
You set acceptable boundaries.
And it's like if the argument here is that we cannot limit the authority of the president at all, like where does that end? Where can we check that power? You know what I mean? Prosecution would be the way to do it. And now we're just kind of removing that.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people making the argument that like, oh, Biden could do the funniest thing ever. Oh, Biden could, eliminate. Biden could have a 9-0 Supreme Court tomorrow if he wanted. And conservatives have been responding like, oh my God, the left is fantasizing about killing their political enemies. It's no. The left is pointing out a contradiction in this ruling.
It's the same thing.
It is obviously absurd to think that any president could just take out their political rivals, yet in John Roberts' majority opinion, that seems to be possible.
And exactly as Sotomayor put it in her dissent, the president could order SEAL Team 6 in an official act to kill their political rival. When people on the left are talking about, oh, you could have a 9-0 court tomorrow, Biden could do this, Biden could do the funniest thing ever, it is the same exercise, it's the same thought experiment that lawyers used when giving their case in front of the court. It is the same language used in a Supreme Court justice's dissent. 2 Supreme Court justices' dissents bringing up how, you could actually just kill people with this and it's okay.
Like, I'm not saying Joe Biden should go and execute his political enemies. I'm pointing out that it's absurd to think that the Supreme Court would sign off on any president doing something like that.
Exactly. It's crazy. And to speak to the little guidance that the court did offer on what is a non-official act, I think this one is hilarious. This is just laughably bad. The court says for an act to be non-official, it has to, quote, be so manifestly and palpably beyond his authority.
Yeah, that's not broad.
What does that mean? What does so manifestly and palpably beyond his authority as an executive even mean? I'm sorry, but that is not the clear and concise language. That is the exact opposite.
Yeah, what? So like if he like, it's hard to imagine a president doing anything and there not being an argument that it's related to his job duties. Like what if Biden went out, he went back home to Delaware, he wasn't doing, he's on vacation or whatever, and he just like shot somebody in the street? Would that be considered palpably beyond his authority? What if he made the argument that they were a national security threat?
Literally, you guess, and it's like that's where the dissents from Jackson and Sotomayor are so palpable.
Yeah,
for lack of a better term, because yes, explicitly within the Constitution, you can remove someone on office. It doesn't tell you how you can remove them. It doesn't tell them you have to remove them by X means. It just says you can remove them from the executive branch.
Yeah, you get to remove people from their positions.
You get to do it, and you get to decide how to remove people. And if you can't face criminal prosecution, what's stopping you?
Yeah,
obviously common decency, but some people don't really have that.
Yeah, and it does seem like they're just teeing Trump up for his second administration. It seems to be like that's what this decision is all about.
It's all one big fucking guessing game.
Yeah,
and I don't understand how the highest court in the land gets away with this.
It's hard to imagine that a Supreme Court makes this decision under someone like LBJ. LBJ was itching to destroy the Supreme Court.
And he should have.
His entire presidency. He almost had his entire New Deal program thwarted by the Supreme Court. And then eventually he said, I'm going to pack the court if you don't fucking stop. But now we have someone like Biden who refuses to do anything about the court.
It refuses to even message about the court. Brother, this court has been one of the most transformative in history. This immunity decision is probably one of the worst decisions in history. None of this presidential immunity argument is rooted in the Constitution. And that's meaningful, not because I I understand that nothing the court does is actually rooted in the Constitution. I understand that the Constitution is decided by what the Constitution says. It's decided by 5 out of the 9 justices every single time. It does not matter what the actual document means. You know what I mean? But other people don't.
Yeah.
Like, it blows my mind.
Joe Biden should have marched alongside 5 new justices that he's appointed to the Supreme Court. He should have walked them into the building the next day. Like, here's your offices.
Golly,
because
man.
they can't. What are they going to do? Criminally prosecute him for abusing the Constitution?
Yeah,
they can't.
Go
He's immune.
And it's like
appointing Supreme Court justices is a part of the job of president. So why can't he just appoint 20 more?
Go for it. Come on, try.
Yeah.
What Biden would do if he was cool at all is just commit as many crimes as he possibly could.
Yeah.
To force the Supreme Court to eventually identify what is not an official act.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
And you don't even got to go that far. Like,
you don't even got to kill people.
What would the Republicans do in the Senate? Because you gotta put Supreme Court justices through the Senate. What would they even do if Biden was just like, yeah, I'm appointing 12 new people to the Supreme Court? They would throw their hands up, but like, what are they going to try to stop them? They're Supreme Court justices now. You can't. You can't do that. That's treason if you attack them.
And it's also like that all sounds bad, right? These are just arguments explicitly from the majority opinion. I want to talk about 2 examples that they use to say, no, these do fall within official acts, or maybe these don't fall within official acts. And I'm just going to read these excerpts from SCOTUS blog because they put it better than I ever could. The quote, turning to some of the specific allegations against Trump, the majority ruled that Trump cannot be prosecuted for his alleged efforts to, quote, leverage the Justice Department's power and authority to convince certain states to replace their legitimate electors with Trump's fraudulent slate of electors.
Beautiful.
End quote. Trump cannot be held criminally liable for that behavior because, controlling the DOJ is a part of his official powers enumerated by the Constitution. So he can literally steal an election.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court told him, they gave him carte blanche to force a state to replace the legitimate electors as decided by the people with just fake ones to make him the president.
It's just so patently unserious.
Like, what are we doing?
How is that justifiable at all?
I don't understand.
Oh my God.
I don't understand. And I think Legal Eagle has a great video about this. And in his video, he made the point that the 6 Supreme Court justices, the 6 conservative justices, claim to be strict textualists, right? And it's something we've made fun of this whole time because as we understand, it means nothing. These people are going to interpret in their own ways, whatever. And it's ironic that these strict textualists are making this argument about immunity when the Constitution itself says nothing about presidential immunity. And that nothing speaks volumes because they do directly address congressional immunity. And what is it, the speech debate clause? Congressional immunity like that, for something is directly addressed within the Constitution. So if you see that the framers considered immunity in one case but not the other, it has to logically follow from the text that they meant to exclude the presidential case.
Otherwise, they would have included it.
And thus, the president is not immune. Like, coming from John Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, strict textualists.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas, thank God Clarence didn't write this opinion.
And after, I think in his concurring opinion, he just went after Jack Smith personally. Like, he was just like, you never should have, I hate the way that
motherfucker, you never should have brought this to me.
Fuck, what was I even going to say? It's just it's crazy to me that this is even being taken seriously by anybody.
Absolutely.
Like, I can't even imagine.
I don't think, we have separation of powers for a reason. One branch is supposed to the executive branch, the legislature is tasked with enforcing the law. The judiciary is tasked with kind of interpreting the law, doing things, reviewing things.
Although they shouldn't be.
They gave that power to themselves. And the executive branch is tasked with enforcing the laws.
Yeah.
I think that's a power enumerated within the Constitution. I think we should just not enforce bad laws and bad rulings anymore.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty good.
Well, and it's like Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon after Watergate because his assumption was like, oh, Richard Nixon's going to face criminal prosecution and I want the country to move on.
Yeah.
And Nixon did everything during the Watergate scandal as president. And the assumption was he's going to be criminally liable for what he did as president, but he was pardoned. So the implication there is, of course, presidents can be criminally charged. Obviously they can be charged. And it seems like that's not the case anymore. Again, I haven't even seen a counter argument to the idea that Nixon would have been able to do everything just fine.
Like Watergate scandal.
Yes.
One of the biggest things in presidential, the scandal, you will. Yeah. Like it doesn't get bigger than Watergate.
One of the biggest moments in American history was the Watergate scandal.
Oh my God, man. I can't imagine the state that we're at. But Another case that the Supreme Court considered, again, an excerpt from SCOTUS blog, with regard to the allegation that Trump attempted to pressure former Vice President Mike Pence in his role as president of the Senate to reject the state's electoral votes or send them back to the Senate legislatures, the court deemed Trump presumptively immune from prosecution on the theory that the president and vice president are acting officially when they discuss their official responsibilities.
Holy shit.
On the other hand, Roberts observed, the vice president's role as president of the Senate is not an executive branch role. The court therefore left it to the district court to decide whether prosecuting Trump for this conduct would intrude on the power and operation of the executive branch.
You can literally push your vice president to overturn an election, and that's cool.
But because you talked about it and talking about your job duties as an official act, it's okay.
It's just giving the game away. It's absurd. How can we take this institution seriously anymore?
You know, ensuring a safe and secure transfer of power is a duty of the president. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking about that and talking about maybe not doing that, like, it's the same thing. You're still talking about your power as the president as enumerated by the Constitution. So I don't see why you can't do it.
It's just so fucking ridiculous.
They've invented immunity out of thin air.
Yeah, they're just saying shit. There's no legal backing. There's no constitutional backing to any of this. They're just making stuff up.
And it's good, you know? I wish I was that bold.
Gotta respect it.
I gotta respect the game. I gotta respect the hustle, frankly.
Yeah. One other thing I'll say about this is, of course, we had Joe Biden's terrible response to it that was 4 minutes long. To a literally democracy breaking decision. We got 4 minutes from it, and I just gotta point out, like, the liberal inability to critique institutions is one thing, right? They are like institutionalist as first principles.
Damn near a disease.
It's really bad. But I think we got to stop treating the Supreme Court as an institution separate from the people that are on it, because the people that are on it are so deeply entwined in what the Supreme Court actually is as an institution. Yeah. There's no real distinction between the 9 Supreme Court justices and the Supreme Court as an institution itself.
Especially when you have justices that can come on the court and overturn decades of precedent.
Yes.
Precedent that has been cited 18,000 times.
Yeah.
If the people on the court can so radically change it, I think we need to stop pretending that they don't set the tone for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, Biden has said publicly that he's afraid of politicizing the court. They treat the Supreme Court as an institution that isn't corrupt itself, but just maybe has some bad people on the court. But my point is that the bad people on the court make the institution corrupt.
Yes.
And if you can't recognize when they've gone far beyond their constitutional purview and they're making decisions that are literally going to break the country, you got to do something. Like, you can't just do nothing. And if you can't meet the moment, you can't be the guy. You can't be the guy. If the Supreme Court's going to come out and say that the person who's trying to win against you is allowed and cannot be prosecuted for trying to overturn the last election, if they can come out and say that and you do nothing, you can't be the guy. Like, you're not defending the Constitution. You're not defending the country. You are giving the game away. You're losing.
You're just lying over and taking it at that point. Like, is the Supreme Court even polling well?
No.
I'm pretty sure everyone in the country pretty much hates the Supreme Court except the Federalist Society.
Yeah.
And nobody likes them.
Well, it's because the Federalist Society has captured the Supreme Court.
Years and years.
It's like, Biden could do so much more. He could, at the very least, he should call on, like, all the states to pass a constitutional amendment that says a president can be charged for things they do as president. And look, I'm fine with there being no, like, civil cases against the president. That was what they decided back during the Watergate scandal.
I understand that, and the logic behind that makes sense in that you can't prosecute a president for civil damages, because then, like, a president's going to do a lot of damage by doing things, by enacting his agenda.
Especially because you can sue the government.
Exactly.
Right, but it makes sense for a president to be criminally liable for things they individually did.
It makes sense for the president to be liable for murder.
Yeah.
I'll come out and say it.
Yeah.
I'll come out and say it. I know that's not a popular position right now.
You know, rich people, powerful people, they never face the full extent of the law. That's just how it goes. We live in a society, so on and so on. But for complete immunity to be the case, you can't even look into it. You can't even hold a trial about it to determine if he's guilty or not.
You can't even use official acts that would directly reinforce the idea that they did this thing or directly admit that they did this thing as evidence.
Yeah. That's crazy.
What are we doing?
Jesus
You're
Christ.
telling me an executive can't even be questioned in their actions?
Mm-hmm.
Nuts.
Yeah, this is, like, and they knew this decision was coming. It was on the we knew it was coming. It was on the docket. We've been waiting for it for weeks now. They knew months in advance that it was coming. The Biden administration should have gotten together, started drafting their version of a preferred constitutional amendment, made adjustments based on exactly what's in the majority opinion, and then said, we need a constitutional convention to answer this question. Like, the Supreme Court has offered a terrible decision. Then he should have called on 3/4 of the states to ratify the constitutional amendment so that it could be in the Constitution. It wouldn't have happened.
No.
Because Republicans, this is good for Republicans. It's a win for conservatives. It's a win for Trump.
But then you can nail them on that.
But you can nail them on
messaging.
that. Yeah, you can say, like, we didn't get enough Republican states to sign on to this. They clearly want the president to be a king. But without saying anything at all, doing anything at all, you just look terrible.
And especially with something that is so far-reaching and borderline antithetical to the principles that founded this nation.
Yes.
These are the very principles that we rejected. And another thing that Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote in her dissent, like, this is the thing we ran away from when we started this. This is antithetical to the birth of the nation. You know what I mean? Why not? Why should that be in the hands of 9 people versus, I don't know, 3/4 of the states versus hundreds of millions?
Yeah.
Nuts.
And, like, a constitutional amendment is the only thing that could undo this. I don't think congressional legislation could do this because they're interpreting the Constitution for whatever that's fucking worth nowadays.
Yeah, it would just be overturned by the
Exactly.
Supreme Court ruling. The only thing that could undo this is a new Supreme Court coming in and just overturning the precedent.
Right.
Or a future Supreme Court, or maybe even this court coming and sort of actually defining the things that they set forth, actually, I don't know, doing their job.
Yeah.
And there's something to say about the ambiguity within every single one of their statements and things they outlined. And it's damn near, I'll say explicitly, so that a Republican get away with it, but a Democrat couldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's how it's going to be applied.
100%. Like, let's be so real. And that's why Joe Biden should commit every crime that he possibly can to force them to define it.
It was refreshing to see J.D. Vance on the talk shows after this decision Monday, where he was basically like, yeah, this is a good decision for presidential immunity, but maybe not for Biden. Like, he got on the cable networks and was like, yeah, presidents deserve immunity, but maybe not Biden.
But not Democrats, though.
Yeah, it's like, it's honest. You can't say he's not honest. He's telling the truth.
One of the principles that Robert, last thing I'll say about this is one of the principles that Robert kind of built this opinion on in his majority opinion was that the founders wanted a vigorous president. They wanted a vigorous executive who could get the job done with vigor. And a feeble executive would not be able to do the job. And if someone has to worry about being prosecuted for criminal acts, that'd be pretty feeble of them.
Like,
damn near exactly what he said in this 42-page opinion.
But it's like we've had vigorous presidents that haven't gotten charged with crimes.
Exactly. We've had no president has been charged with crimes like this before. This is like a fake issue.
And yeah, that's the thing about, like, the liberal response to this is, like, the presumption before the Supreme Court case was already that presidents could basically do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
Right? You can go out and kill people overseas. You can violate powers as much as you want. And for the most part, you're not going to be held criminally liable. I mean, see George Bush. He literally lied to us about weapons of mass destruction. You can basically do whatever you want as president. But if you go beyond the purview of what you have to do as president, say, try to steal an election or the documents thing with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, that's when you're going to face criminal prosecution. Yeah. That was already the assumption, but for them to put it in writing and make it worse than I thought, that's crazy.
No, literally. Exactly, because this in a lesser extent had already pretty much been the standard.
Yeah.
No one is facing criminal prosecutions for crimes they commit overseas. As much as I think maybe they should. It hasn't happened ever before. What they would face criminal prosecution for is, say, ordering the military to kill a political rival. But now they can't?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, they went far above and beyond what it should have been. And look, I personally, people are saying, like, oh, Biden wants it to be a banana republic. It's more of a banana republic if you can't charge your leaders with crimes.
I think so.
And I am perfectly fine with literally every president going to jail after their administration is over. It's like, some cities like Chicago or Detroit or whatever have a bunch of mayors that have gone to jail. It's like, I'm fine with that.
That's cool.
Because, like, if they commit crimes while they're in office using the power of their office or whatever else, they should be in jail for it.
And it's also like corruption is a crime. Like, corruption is something that is dealt with in criminal court. The president can just do that now?
Yeah, and also when it comes to, like, the feeble argument, like, we want a vigorous president, kind of, again, it gives the game away that, like, for a president to be vigorous, they're going to have to do bad things.
Exactly. Like, underscoring all of this is the idea that at fucking every turn, at making every decision, the president is constantly contemplating whether they not should violate the law.
Yeah.
Whether or not the person who is tasked with carrying out and enforcing the law should be able to just not hold themselves to that standard is crazy.
Just the idea that there can't be an illegitimate use of an official power is just nuts to me.
Oh my God, I know.
Like, what do you like? Of course, the president is commander in chief. They get to direct the military, SEAL Team 6, whatever. Like, obviously, that's a power the president has. But the idea that there can't be an unofficial use of that official power is like it's stupid. It's baseless and it's dumb.
Like, would it truly be official for Joe Biden to order, I don't know, Mark Milley, woke general, to make him coffee every day? Yeah, that's not illegal, but I'd argue that that's damn near an unofficial use of this official power. Like, come on, man.
Or, of course, much worse, he orders the military to, like, I don't know, raid Trump's home. Or something like that. And you would think the conservatives wouldn't like this because they've been talking about the Biden crime family for like years now.
He quite literally weaponizes the DOJ, as the court told him he explicitly can do, to persecute, to throw the full weight of the legal system at anybody he doesn't like.
Right, and that's my point is like you've been saying for months that Joe Biden's been doing this against Donald Trump. You would think that this Supreme Court decision would be mortifying to the conservative wing because it lets Biden do even more of what you said he was doing.
But Biden's not even going to do the cool thing and go do it.
Well, and Biden hasn't been doing that, and the fact that conservatives aren't mad at this decision shows that they know he hasn't been doing that.
And it's crazy because people have been talking about like, oh, Trump could do this, Trump could do that. The one that I am worried about Trump doing if he becomes president is genuinely weaponizing the DOJ, is genuinely forcing other people to do these things, genuinely throwing frivolous lawsuits at people that they just can't do anything about because he's doing it as an official act.
Yeah, and using the military against the civilian population. Like, that's the thing I expect out of Trump.
He can deploy the American military on American soil to do whatever he wants now. And it can't be illegal? What are we doing, man?
Yeah, it's bad. And at the helm, Joe Biden. At the helm, Joe Biden. A couple of extras before we leave this episode. First of all, if we head over the pond to our friends in the British Isles, the Tories got fucking smoked.
Hell yeah.
You see that?
Hell yeah.
Labour won like 412 seats out of like 650. Yeah,
oh
Labour's got 8. It's like 63%. Labour's got like 63% of the seats right now. The Tories got smacked. They lost some seats to the far right, though, which not great. I don't think it was that many. Labour still has an overwhelming majority. Obviously, Keir Starmer is now the prime minister, but the far right gaining power anywhere is not a good look.
No. I think I've been seeing over the last couple of weeks that people are talking about there's been a far right kind of resurgence across Europe.
Yeah,
like far right parties are winning in like fucking France, I guess now in the UK, or not winning, but maybe even gaining more power.
They're gaining power. Yeah,
that's a bit alarming.
Yeah, it's not good, especially because we know what happens with far right people in Europe.
Oh, that's exactly.
We've got lots of precedent for that. I think what a lot of people have boiled it down to is just like a rejection of incumbents generally.
Okay,
because people are mad, people are hurting. You know what I mean?
And that makes sense.
And they see government they see incumbent governments as a representation of why they're suffering.
And if anything, that's another reason why we shouldn't run with Joe Biden.
Yeah, yep. That doesn't spell anything good for Joe Biden. It's an incumbent disadvantage at this point.
Especially when, not to fucking bring it back to Joe Biden, but goddamn, it's really just the number one thing on my mind right now. Especially when his kind of incumbency is underscored by people just talking about Bidenflation.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like as much as I think he has done everything he can, like he has done okay on the economy. He has put forth policies that have made things better, that have actually curtailed inflation. The prevailing narrative is that inflation has ran rampant under Biden.
Yep.
People's lives have gotten worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People's real rage has shrunk year after year from 2020 to 2022.
Yeah, and you need a candidate that can combat Trump's lies about inflation. You need a candidate that can sell an economic message like, yes, I know you're still hurting, but we've done this, this, and this that help the economy, and my plan for the future is to do this, this, and this to further curb inflation.
And Joe Biden just, he does not have the backing behind him to be able to do that as effectively as possible.
He doesn't have the sauce.
But you know somebody who might. Gretchen Whitmer. And I think that brings us to our next little extra.
Yeah, the last little news story we'll leave off on is that the Michigan legislature just passed an $80 billion budget, which includes some major investments in education, which is what I want to focus on. There was about maybe a third of the budget was education. It includes free community college and free preschool for those households making less than $125,000 annually.
Radically good.
Transformative.
Radically fucking good. Yeah. Genuinely alleviating so many things for families.
Yeah.
And a preschool, yes, it's not childcare necessarily. It's not like a daycare that kids are going to for years. But that's one less year that parents will have to pay, like $30,000 to get their kids into a daycare facility. Transformative. Very good.
Yeah, no, transformative, especially because I think this budget starts like October 1st of this year, something like that. It's for the next fiscal year. Free community college is insane.
Phenomenal.
It's a free associate's degree provided you put in the work
And
for it.
quite literally could half the student debt crisis.
Yes.
In the future, obviously not the one right now, but people who want to receive a higher education, who can go to the community college route for the first 2 years, transfer their credits to a major university like, say, MSU, now their student debt's half. Instead of graduating with $100,000 in debt, they're graduating with maybe 50.
Or people that just want to like start getting into a field and they want an associate's degree in whatever, they can go and get that at a community college in Michigan for free.
Or also people who want to dip their toes in a field to try and understand what they maybe want to do without having to worry about taking a 5th and 6th year at college because they got behind, can do this for free.
Yeah.
Well, pretty good.
Or I know tons of people that took like, I don't know if you did this, but like took math courses over the summer at a community college just to get the credit done.
No, I didn't do that. I took because COVID university.
Yeah.
So I took courses over the summer through MSU actually.
Yeah.
But I totally would have enrolled in like a community college or something like that.
Yeah, if
Especially
it's
I was in
free.
the area.
Yeah.
Come on now.
If it's free and the credit can just easily transfer, like tons of people in STEM certainly do this where they'll go and pick up like a calc course or whatever just so they don't have to pay for it at the major university. That is this kind of thing is genuinely what changes people's lives and makes the state economy better.
Saves you thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Maybe you graduate early. You start becoming a productive member of the workforce earlier. Seems like a quality investment. And you get a degree. You become a higher earner because degree holders on average earn a bit higher. That's more money circulating in the economy. Well, man, it's a policy like this nationally could be so good.
Yep.
Could be so genuinely great and wonderful.
Literally transformative. Now, naturally, this wasn't controversy-free because the legislature didn't vote to raise the per pupil funding amount in K through 12 schools that, the money that they receive from the state, which some people warned could lead to layoffs. Gretchen Whitmer said the schools are going to have more money than last year because they're not being required to pay into the pension fund as much because apparently the teachers' pension fund is fully funded for the next year, so they didn't have to adjust the rate. I think they lowered the rate at which the rate that is like taken out of your paycheck and paid into the pension fund. Policy's complicated.
Yeah, policy's complicated. That's an explanation that makes sense.
Yeah, policy's complicated. I don't know which way on the issue the experts would fall, but regardless, like we said, free community college is huge. Free preschool for people under a certain threshold is huge. And certainly goes to show you why these down ballot races matter so much, because this is literally impossible if Democrats don't win a trifecta in 2022 in the Michigan House or the Michigan legislature.
This is only possible because of the Michigan Democrat trifecta right now. Oh man, wow.
I think they also did free universal lunch as well for K through 12 students.
Oh, that finally got passed.
Yeah.
I know they were talking about it a while ago. Another just good thing.
Transformative.
That Ben Shapiro will finally come back into relevancy because I feel like he's fallen off a little bit by saying that, kids are just wasting school lunches. Kids shouldn't be given free lunches. They should have to pay for it. Kids should go into lunch debt.
Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Somebody's got to pay for it.
Somebody's got to pay for it. But it's good things to see. This is what happens when Democrats get elected up and down the ballot. At least in Midwestern states. I don't know about
I was going to say somebody mentioned like Midwestern states are really just powerhouses for progressive policy to come through when Democrats win, and the resurgence of progressivism, or say the launching pad for progressivism, it's the Midwest, baby.
It's got to be because they have to draw contrast with the right, and in doing so. They have to be more progressive. They have to look different.
You can't be Eric Adams in Detroit.
Yeah.
You cannot be Eric Adams and win in Detroit and claim to be a Democrat. That's something you can only do in a stronghold. That will vote blue always. Maybe
if it's only like a citywide election, because like Detroit's not going to elect a Republican governor.
Exactly.
Or a Republican mayor, I mean.
That's true, yeah.
But if we're talking like state races, like of course, you gotta be able to draw contrast with the right, and the best way to do that is to be progressive.
Pretty good.
Especially at a time when, in 2022, when Republicans were running explicitly on restricting abortion rights in Michigan.
Oh, my God.
Like that. Look, all I'm going to say, Midwest, making some progress.
It's pretty good out here.
Yeah. And Gretchen Whitmer's not even like a progressive, quote unquote.
No,
you know what I mean?
Not. She's just like, okay.
She's just a Democrat.
We've been Whitmer heads for a while, but she's just like, okay, she's not anything like stand out. But compared to everything else on the field, you'd think she was Marx.
It's like Michigan and Minnesota have been going crazy. There's some other states too in there, but Michigan and Minnesota's got like a 1-seat majority.
Yeah.
And I just remember we covered it a while ago. They were just ignoring everything Republicans wanted.
Exactly, and it's gas.
That's what you got to do.
Minnesota was also the place where the governor used was it Minnesota or Wisconsin where the governor used a loophole to fund schools for like 400 years.
Yeah, that was Wisconsin. Yeah.
Joe Biden would never.
No.
Joe Biden would never do anything
These
like
sacred
that.
halls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't defile these institutions like my opponent will when he gains power because I suck.
Yeah, we haven't seen Dark Brandon in 2 years. Dark Brandon has been completely absent.
Dark Brandon would start stealing to make the Supreme Court define official acts.
Yeah, it's not looking good, folks. But look, if you live in Michigan, the great state, the wonderful state of Michigan,
Exactly.
things
The
are
one
looking good.
real state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Golly.
Well, that ends out the episode this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're not feeling too dreadful, and I hope you have been convinced to formally join the KHive.
I think so.
Because I'm hoping sometime this week.
It's a conviction. It's a conviction. I cannot wait for her to pop out Wednesday night after the pod drops and says, guys, KHive strong.
And she's
going crazy.
She's funny.
She is kind of
The
funny.
wheels on the bus go round and round.
Wakanda
it's
forever.
Good.
Oh my god,
It's good. And she can look. She's a woman. She can make it all. She can make one of the main issues about abortion.
yeah, she could run on that so hard.
Yeah, exactly. And she could also actually. I was gonna say she could run on like decriminalizing marijuana on a federal level, but like she's kind of responsible for putting like 10% of the black male population in California behind bars for that. That was like her alone. So maybe not that. But look, people need law and order right now.
She could cynically run on it.
Yeah.
she could cynically do it, and I'd pretend to be cool with it.
$15 wage. There's a lot Kamala can do, and she could actually orate.
She can speak.
Joe Biden cannot speak.
She can speak, and she can be funny. You know what?
Funny.
You know what? We need a couple more wheels on the buses. We really do. And genuinely, if she could run a compelling campaign on abortion and against the Supreme Court, I think that carries her to the presidency. Look at the midterms. Look at literally every race. Like, it's got a proven track record. And Joe Biden, frankly, has not been hammering the abortion thing enough, especially after the debate. He's been too busy talking to his wife and son, who are evil. At Camp David.
Evil and duplicitous. Yeah, look, America deserves its first Zandout president. We deserve our first wine mom president.
Absolutely.
And you know, I was thinking about this. There is a small section of like suburban wealthy liberals that will be upset that the first woman president is black. And I am excited for that tiny bit of, I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, this is true.
Like I can picture in my mind's eye, there's a kind of liberal that wants it to be a white woman first for our first woman president. And they won't be happy that she's a black woman.
Well, that's in line with another take that I saw this week. That was, I want Kamala Harris to become the nominee and win the presidency just despite Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, that's good. That's another reason why I'm a proud KHiver. I'm in the KHive mind.
Buzz, baby.
Buzz.
We are members of the KHive. And look, if you want to be a member of the KHive, you got to get your name on this beautiful list.
You know exactly what to do.
We are ground zero for the rebirth of the KHive.
So shout out to, special thanks to Caden Kraut, Lord Todd the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Dylan B, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Mattias T, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro, Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vezquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Bega Burrito, Cincy Alex, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cutsver Yook, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Teddy, Crawfish, and Benneth Bennington III, Alexia Benatti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's Boyfriend, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarlson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and his Gundams, Darth Father, Tailored for Content, Corey Chambers, L.E.N., Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Emma the Doot Slayer, Veronica aka V, Raxon, Ass Smith, The Grottler, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, and Hope of Giants, AK Gon, Aquana Don,
Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cammy, Tylen Freeman, Steak Daddy, Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Pab the Pab 69, Kayla Lowe, Anna Volinick, KCC, Say Yes to West, August, Particular Pickman, Sir Capalot, Jeff Signs, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Zen doing their best, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Sasha, MJ is Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ander, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T, Kishan Lala, Amanda R, Hanky Panky, Becky, Tyler J, Damian Blues, Ashley White, Dick Cheney and 3-inch Heels, Lalo Valesco, Particulon, Memfrez, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Lauren, Uncrasomatic Boar, Sasquatch, Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, Patrick Simpson, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Dialectic Dreamer, Kevin Kasaya, Schnoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, Krusty Krab, Dew Fairy, Turtle Rights, Chelceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, and my mom. Thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon.
Wonderful.
If you just joined, we've had some new people join recently, maybe because of the Hit Up postcard program. If you just joined and you are in the $10 tier and up and you want your name on this list, DM us on Patreon. Let us know if we missed you. And you know, also, we thank you for being here.
Do not forget to send your address on over to the Hit OPP.
Fill out the form
to make sure that you get your promised goods.
Yeah, we're gonna be working on that very soon. Hopefully, get them out by August.
Oh my goodness, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be the best post. It's gonna be the best PP anyone's ever seen.
You'll want to get in there and get it. And look, if you're not a patron and you want to be one, you're at the end of this episode. You clearly want to be on the Patreon.
Come on now. What else are you listening this long for? It's because you can envision it. You can see it. You can hear your name on that list,
and it supports the show.
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to do that?
Come on.
Why aren't you supporting the show?
Man, it makes me so sad.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Have a great week.